Thank you, Tom, for being with us today. Do you all feel like you have just had a lullaby? Can you feel that energy? Ah, what a delight. So, I was having breakfast with a minister friend that was in town this week. And while we were having breakfast at what I call the Big Bicky, which is, I think it's called the Big Biscuit. You know what I'm talking about? If you're online, you'd have to drive pretty far to get there. But I was having breakfast with him, and as has probably happened to many of us, while we were having breakfast, we heard one of the waitresses run into the main part of the restaurant from the separated part saying, "Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? We need a doctor. This is an emergency. We need a doctor. Is there anyone in the house?" And immediately you can feel the energy shift, right? Immediately you can feel something going on. And what happens to everybody in those moments? What happens to you in those moments? You can tell if you pay attention to the field that there are a lot of different energies, and they can be chaotic. Some energy is fear, some energy is hope, some energy is prayer, some energy is interest, some energy is what if, some energy is just watching. What energy do you want to be a part of? What energy do I want to be a part of? And what energy would we like someone to hold for us if that were us? If in fact this concept, this beautiful concept of one life, one mind, one body, one being were very much true, which in unity we know and we practice that it is, what state of consciousness would I want someone to hold if I was having that experience? Now, of course, two ministers, neither of us are emergency responders. So you sit there for a moment and you check what is mine to do. And we just held hands right there and said a prayer, knowing that the invisible field of consciousness, which we can create in a moment, is incredibly powerful and in fact is filled with life-giving substance, that our thoughts are things, and that no, I am not powerless. So you overcome any ideas, right, that might be to look, or what do they call it when you do this? Rubbernecking? Well, it's probably a good thing to rubberneck if you're about ready to launch a prayer that way. The next time you rubberneck, I want you to think of this. Was there a prayer that went with it? Because if there wasn't a prayer, what can happen? What can happen when we rubberneck is that we are launching our thoughts. We are launching, and what are we launching? Are we launching fear? Oh my God, thank God that's not me. Fear, what if it turns out like this? How bad is it? Are they? Is it? Will they? Right? And we can collectively create a field of consciousness. Or we can drop down to our heart center, connect with the heart and mind, and in a moment say, what is mine to do? What presence is mine to hold? And trust. Have faith in the invisible. Have faith in the perceiving power of the mind. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said that faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the ability to shape substance. So I'll ask you for a moment. I have a wand here. And if I go like this, let's see, I gotta wait till the dots go away. Does anyone know what I just did? What did I just do? I cleaned. Did you see me scrub the carpet? Really? If it were 30 years ago and I went like this, what would you say I just did? That's a good one. Right? Who knows? But you certainly would not say, I cleaned the carpet. But because of a technology, because of an advancement, this wand is no longer just light. It is no longer just a battlefield toy. It is now an instrument to cleanse, an instrument to harmonize. Within each of us, there is this same instrument. Within each of us, there is an inner technology that may not be in a plastic light wand, but it is certainly born into all of creation at conception. But unless we know how to use it, unless we know that it's ours and what it's here for, it will remain closed. But the moment that the light goes on, and the moment that we recognize that we are more than what is visible to the eye, life transforms, and we are a transforming agent in God consciousness. We are a transforming agent in life. This minister friend shared with me as we were sitting there, because I said, I don't have a talk for Sunday, and sometimes it comes around slow, but this time I thought, it's just blank there. It's just invisible. It's invisible this Sunday. And what this Sunday has turned into is the talk title, Invisible Acts of Service. Because the next thing he said to me was, Aaron, there is something that you shared with me, and you probably don't even remember sharing it because you weren't trying to teach it, you were just talking about yourself. But he said, that happens. But he said, there was something you shared with me that I do all the time, because we had just gotten done holding hands praying, right? And he said, every time now I drive by an animal on the road, I stop in my mind as I drive by and I say a prayer. I bless that animal for its life, whether it's a raccoon or a deer, whatever it is that has gotten smacked on the side of the road, or a bird, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever life is there, I stop and I say a prayer and I bless it and I thank it for its life. And he said, I heard that from you, and you weren't even trying to share it, but I have forever done that from that day forward. Who would know, right? One would not know that something that they practice or something they share, when acted upon, can be a greater act of service that can then go out and pay it forward in the world. So in that blessing, every time that I do that, I also hold a moment of forgiveness, a moment of love, saying, from me into this universe, I'm sorry that this human world has infringed on the territory. I'm sorry that a vehicle or whatever it is has lifted your life from this physical body, but I see you. I see you. Now, if aliens suddenly dropped down, and we were those animals on the side of the road, or like an ant that you squash or whatever, I think that would be really nice if an alien would say, I see you, Aaron, right as it's going. At least just to say, I see you, life force. Sorry we just took over, but I see you, little human. What do we do in the moment of an emergency? What is our emergency response inside? Do you have a practice? When you drive on the highway, do you stop when there is an accident? Not in your car, but in your mind. Do you utilize every ounce of your power and direct it towards the life force, towards the greatest good, and say, sweet spirit, use me. Let me be very conscious of my thoughts. Use me for good right here and right now, and so it is, amen. Anytime that we don't, we're simply not using all of our collective and creative capacity. And there is a whole world of transformation ready to be experienced by us. A world that develops in mystical and myriad ways. I think about it sometimes in driving on the highway. You've seen movies like, it just flew out of my head. It's one of my mom's favorite movies. Oh, this is going to be fun because we're going to get to play charades. It's a movie where, I just got it. You don't get to play anymore. Defending Your Life. Oh, I knew you'd love it, right? If you haven't seen it, it's a good one to go get. But it's a movie about life after death. It's a movie about what happens after we die. And so in this film, they're in their non-local form. They're non-physical form. But I always think, when I think of that movie and when I hear stories about people that have surgeries, right? They have surgeries or they have some sort of medical procedure where they're in one room and they're out, they're unconscious. The parts of their brain or the parts of their body or their being or their eyes or their ears, whatever it is that can sense or perceive anything, is not functioning in the way that we would know it could function in order to get an experience. But they may be able to be non-local and see something in another area, another room, or they may be able to tell a doctor what a doctor said, or you can fill in the blank. There are a lot of things that happen. And it's okay if this is too far. If this pushes your envelope a little too far, that's okay. Just get more into science and think of an EEG or an EKG. There's nothing going on there, but whatever. The doctors know how to do it, right? You can get all scientific. The doctors know how to read stuff that's not there. And they have all these little signs and things. I mean, gosh, they can just pull your blood, just a little drop of blood. That's nothing. And they can tell all this stuff about us. So the world is much more interesting, isn't it, than we tend to think. But when I think of the non-local mind, and when I think of out-of-body experiences, I think of what it would be like to be on the highway and to be one of those folks in an accident, or I think about what that person in an accident might be thinking or might be able to perceive. And if you would just picture for a moment, if you would close your eyes with me, we've all driven by accidents. Just visualize going by this accident and visualize all the cars and the ambulances there, and visualize the cars getting caught up in some traffic. You can bring us to Kansas City, you can bring us to Chicago or New York City or LA or on a country road, whatever. But see people there in their cars and start to hear what they're saying. Start to notice what's going on in all of those vehicles. And when you hear it, when you get some things, if you're brave today, just shout it out. How long is this going to take? Oh, look at the traffic. I'm going to get in trouble if I'm late. Maybe even anger, right? And now, just for a moment, go over to that vehicle or that ambulance, whatever that other scene is, and just imagine that person. And imagine for a moment that consciousness is not local, that we know sometimes beings can perceive more than what their eyes or their ears are hearing and seeing. And now picture them hearing all of that. Hearing all of it. So here they are at the moment of their life. And let's pick a life and death situation here. Here they are at the moment that they may transition or they may stay. And they're having that soul experience. And they hear all of this. Oh, maybe if I go right, I can get around this. How could I get around this? I think I can take I-35. And then all of a sudden, here comes a vehicle. And there's a person or persons in that vehicle, and that's you. And in your car, there is something else happening. In your car and in your mind, you may be driving, but you have completely paused. And here is what this spirit, this soul hears. Very audibly, feels emotionally, in whatever way it has the capacity to. But thoughts are things. And these things, these thoughts, emerge from your vehicle, from your mind, from your field of consciousness, and it goes something like this. Right where you are, I trust that your spirit can hear me. I see you. You are not alone. The power of life is active within you. It is active within every cell, every muscle, every tissue, every tendon. The right and perfect people are here to support your highest good. I lend you my energy. I join with you for your soul's highest choice. If you choose to be here, let it be done in the most grace-filled, miraculous ways. If you choose to go, you are loved. You are not alone. Here I am. Use me. And come back to this moment. Big difference, right? What kind of world would we like to live in? What kind of world do we love to live in? What type of consciousness do we want to attract? And do we want to be around? Do we want to teach? And do we want to generate? A consciousness that goes about the world and gets caught up in the material things and the meaningless little things that happen from day to day? Or the kind of world where the heart is so open that it is constantly presencing love, constantly being available for opportunities to express God consciousness and to develop the internal landscape to such the degree that did the master teacher and other masters throughout the ages that are all by nature the Christ presence, that divine presence, that enlightened state of consciousness, a being in human form that comes as much as has the ability from God consciousness. There is an invisible field, and it is real. Think about love. Is love visible? Really, is love visible? Love is one of the most powerful things about being alive. And in fact, maybe the only real worthy thing about being alive and being in form and going about in these bodies is love. But love in itself is invisible, is it not? It is invisible. We may see the effects of love. We may see evidence that love was there and that love exists, but love is invisible. This is about tapping into the world of the invisible. In Matthew 6:4, it says, "Give your gifts in secret, and your Father, who knows all secrets, will reward you." The passage goes on to say about those private moments that you don't need to teach and preach and pray and give in front of everybody so everybody sees it. And a lot of times we use that passage in Scripture to teach being humble, to teach that, we don't need a lot of attention for the gifts that we give. We can be givers and tithers and blessers and all of that in the invisible realm and stay in that invisible realm, because spirit that sees in the invisible realm is reward enough. But it's not so much, I think, about getting or not getting attention, because there can be ego in the invisible realm as too, right? There can be ego in thinking, I'm invisibly blessing everybody all the time. That passage, I think, is really about an untapped power. That passage is saying, remember how much goes on when no one is watching. Remember how much goes on that no one sees. Think about how much time we spend developing the outer world. Think about how much time we spend getting this body ready, getting our relationships in order, communicating, learning to communicate, learning to write, all of these external things. Can we spend even more time on the internal landscape, on developing the depth within? Just like we learn about relationships, just like we learn skills to have a job, can we learn the inner technology of our beings in order to bring forth what is ours to bring forth, which is more enlightenment, more awakening, more heaven on earth? There is a student who gave his chapel service just this last Wednesday. The students are graduating in a week from Thursday. A lot of the students are graduating. And in his chapel service, he talked about the passage, love thy neighbor as thyself. And what a beautiful interpretation he had. He talked about, and I'll just give my nutshell, the idea that in consciousness, you do love your neighbor as yourself. Because what is in here is out there. It has to. However you're treating this outside world is how you treat yourself. So when then we raise the consciousness of how we bless and treat others, we raise the consciousness of how we are in ourselves and vice versa. He talked about it as not so much being a law to follow, but an absolute that is. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. The field of consciousness that's in here is the field of consciousness I share here. I can do no other such thing. I can't step out of that. I may think I can. If I go into the visual, I may think because I have this on that makes me separate, I'm over here. I can somehow separate my field of energy from yours. But even quantum physics, even mechanical science, even doctors are starting to see and show us that in fact that is not the case. That we're more like air. We're more like the environment. That when something goes out somewhere, it goes all over. And it's real. The power of the invisible. What are our invisible acts of service? Have we thought about how much we can accomplish? It's time in our beings and in our world globally that I believe we all are ready to step up and to start sharing this concept of accomplishing in the Spirit. In the Spirit. We have spent so much time teaching our children how to accomplish tasks, value, ideas, material in the outer world. What will the world be like when the full new generation is here that has delved into the inner landscape? Do you know how much you can accomplish by diving into the inner world? So we have an activity. In Unity, we practice where ancient wisdom meets new thought, and we call it practical Christianity, because this isn't about just practicing something for an hour and then, going home and hoping that worked for the week. It's about activating it every moment, and it's about every moment being a teacher. It's about every moment being alive with our ability to grow. So if you would join with 2 or 3, and you're going to have to be good students here because we don't have time to get rowdy and quiet down and get loud. But if you would, with the 2 or 3 people around you, do this activity. One of you is going to go first. You either hold a really positive thought or you hold a really negative thought. You can choose which one. Don't tell your partner or the triad what you're holding. And then I invite you either just to sit with each other or to hold hands, and I want the other one to try to guess what kind of a thought you're holding. Now, this isn't about looking, so you can't be like, or it's just about an intention. So once one person has done it, then the other person can do it. And you just generate the thought. And if that's so foreign, don't worry about it. Just think a happy thought or think a bad thought. Okay? All right, you may begin. And switch if you haven't switched yet. All right, and I'm going to give you a little countdown to come back here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now you have something to practice for fun for the rest of the week. Did anyone get it right? Yeah, nice job. Now, this is a game, this is an experience. It's not about getting it right or getting it wrong. But imagine if every day when you went through elementary school, imagine if you had a class on this. Imagine if you had a course on tuning into energy. Do you think that you would develop the skills? Do you think you would get even better at picking up in a moment on what was being held? Maybe even being able to get the ideas. Some people have those gifts, those abilities, right? They can see it. Some people don't know what's going on and they don't know why they can feel it, but they feel something and they don't actually understand it, but they feel it. Have you ever had someone that you have no reason, you've no real reason, your mind may like them or dislike them, but for whatever reason, you're magnetically attracted to them or you're energetically repulsed? Do you know what I'm saying? It's fields of energy, and it's real. So, okay, everyone, now together we're going to do cancel, cancel, clear, clear. Ready? Cancel, cancel, clear, clear. That, just let go of anything that was, For any of you that are scared, no. But really, we know that our thoughts are things. Are we willing to take our unity principles and our practice to the next level and remove ourselves from the realm of just talking about it and actually fully diving into it, each one of us, diving into our ability and our power to bless? Because we all have a mind, and in unity we call it a divine mind. But we know the downside is that sometimes that mind is not so celestial. In fact, sometimes the mind is more of a cesspool than it is a celestial mind. So to presence our human sides, can we be present to ourselves? Can we take on an inner curriculum, a spiritual curriculum, to not judge and not criticize the experience of being a human spirit, but can we learn about it and observe, and any thoughts, any emotions that we say maybe wouldn't want to share with the world, right? Do you ever think about that? What if all of a sudden everyone could hear? It's probably coming. That day is probably coming. Do we want to clean up our consciousness before it gets here? Yeah. Right? It's like all of a sudden and those little kids that are being born are like wildly intuitive. But it's like all of a sudden the curtain pulls. The curtain pulls and it's all out here. So can we presence our own minds and our own selves and simply just go, just like in a mindfulness meditation, I see you, cesspool mind. Cancel, cancel. I see you, celestial thought. Quicken, quicken. And move on. But make it that simple. Keep it that simple, make it that simple, and work on developing the intuitive ability and the power to use our creative faculties. I share with you a reading from the book Your Invisible Word, Your Invisible Power by Troward. We just saw him in the film. If you came to the What Is New Thought film, well, we didn't see him, but we saw a lot of people reference him. He says this: in every word you use, there is a power germ which expands and projects itself in the direction of your word, indicates, and ultimately develops into physical expression. For example, if you wish the consciousness of joy, and you can fill in the blank for today, the consciousness of blessing, repeat the word life, life, blessing, blessing, joy, joy, whatever it is. Repeat that word secretly, persistently, emphatically. The repetition of the word sets up a quality of vibration which causes that germ to begin to expand and to project itself until your whole being is filled with that quality. This is not a mere fancy, but the truth. Once you experience this power, you will daily prove to yourself that these facts have not been fabricated to fit a theory, but that the theory has been built up by careful observation of facts. Everyone knows that joy, or whatever it is, comes from within. It is a state of consciousness, and consciousness is purely mental, and not the mental that is limited to the brain. It is mental as in the mind of God, the great mind in which we are all one in God consciousness. So how will you use your imagination? How will you use this gift? I leave you with this very practical tool. Start playing with life. and let it transform everything. Let any experience where you hear cesspool consciousness and celestial consciousness simply invite you into an activity in a game. And this is what you can do. The next time you see someone that gets pulled over on the side of the road and getting a ticket, right? Or maybe you get pulled over and get a ticket, cancel. You're getting the weird side of Unity today. But whenever that happens, play a game with it. Can you, instead of going, oh, I'm getting a ticket, or oh, they're getting a ticket, can you bless them? Can you say to them, or can you say to yourself, if it's you, can you say, everybody go on by, I'm taking one for the team today. Bless you. Taking one for the team. Taking one for the team. Or when you see someone else get pulled over, can you say, thanks for doing that for all of us. That was just a really nice treat. I really appreciate it. It's like being taken to dinner, and I just thank you. I bless you. God bless. Happy Sunday. Namaste.